thank you, our webinar so that others who missed the bus will get to join us later in time. I want to welcome you all. We're super excited that you're here to join us. My name is Deborah Sagan-Massey. I am the senior educator at Jewish Learning Works, and I work on the teen initiative here in the Bay Area. We are part of a larger national funder collaborative, and San Francisco Bay Area is one of 10 cities working to increase teen engagement in Jewish life. We are really excited to have partnered with many of the communities around the country so that we can offer this virtual college road bus trip. We're thrilled to be part of this national initiative, and we thank the Jim Joseph Foundation and a variety of local funders for their generous support and enabling this to happen. In a moment, I will stop talking and I will allow our panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll have the chance to hear from each of them. Throughout the session, if you have questions, you can simply post them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or if it's easier for you, just feel free to pop them in the chat, and you can put them either to panelists and attendees or just to panelists. We'll do our best to get to as many of your questions as possible, and we'll also try to leave a few minutes at the end if you have any additional questions. And some of you submitted questions to us in advance, so we'll be able to use those as well. If you're having any tech issues, please message Rachel, who is our tech person, in the chat, and we'll do our best to help. So without a further ado, I want to introduce our panelists, and I'll start by introducing Dion Teasley from UC Berkeley Admissions. Welcome, Dion.
Are you waiting for me? Hey, my name is...
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. I was introducing Dion, and now I also want to introduce Micah and Abby from UC Berkeley Hillel. Do you guys want to say hi?
Great. Hi all, happy to be here.
Great. Thank
you. Everyone.
Great. And I will pass the baton to Dion from UC Berkeley Admissions, who will be sharing with us about admissions at Cal. Welcome. Thanks, Dion.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here on this very beautiful Thursday. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start my admissions presentation. Okay. All right. So I am going to go off camera for this one, but I will be right back to answer any questions.
Dion, it's now not in presenter mode. It's now it has speaker notes.
No problem. Thank you.
Sure.
It says shared screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect.
How about this?
Looks great.
Okay, great. All right, doing a time check and let's go. So what I wanted to say before I get into it, it's a small group of 10. So if there's any questions you have while I'm presenting, that's perfectly okay to go ahead and interrupt. You can ask by unmuting yourselves, or you could just go ahead and chat in the question in the chat box, okay? All right, before I get started, I want to take a moment to recognize that Berkeley sits on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone, the successors of this historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. We recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold the University of California, Berkeley more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. All right, so UC Berkeley is located in the San Francisco Bay Area, about 20 minutes from San Francisco itself, about 40 minutes from Silicon Valley. And we like to share with our parents who are from out of state that we're only 45 minutes from Napa Valley. At UC Berkeley, our students have access to rich culture and history throughout the entire Bay Area. Our Berkeley students are a key part of why Berkeley is considered among the top public universities in the world. Their innovation, passion for public service, and academic success are the story of Berkeley. While each student has a different experience, Berkeley facilitates opportunities for students to discover themselves and thrive. And these are the things we're going to see throughout this presentation. Our undergraduate programs are divided by 5 colleges and 1 school. The largest is the College of Letters and Science, which houses around 75% of the students, with majors in arts and humanities, social sciences, physical and biological sciences. We also have interdisciplinary studies, which is a fancy way of saying you can create your own major. Next, we have our College of Chemistry. The College of Chemistry is one of the only colleges in the country specifically dedicated in the area of chemistry and provides the opportunity and means for students to meet their major scientific and technical challenges, such as addressing climate change, increasing the world's food supply, synthesizing new materials, and discovering and delivering important drugs. Next up, we have our College of Engineering, which is the top engineering schools in the country that offers dynamic interdisciplinary hands-on education. And we have a smaller school, this is our College of Environmental Design. It's smaller, like I just mentioned, but it has a great interdisciplinary approach to majors like architecture, urban design, and sustainable environmental design. Next up, we have our Rausser College of Natural Resources, which focuses on environmental sciences with majors in health and science fields. Strong option for anyone interested in pre-med because of the heavy health science focus. And last, we have our Haas School of Business, which is the 2nd oldest business school. We only admit juniors, and there's 1 major in business administration. But you can have a concentration in areas such as accounting, marketing, and international business. Haas also offers a program that is called the Management Entrepreneurship and Technology, also known as the MET program. We also have a global management program. This will allow you as an incoming freshman to have come in with a dual degree, or you will graduate with a dual degree. So you will actually, it's a little bit more than a double major. And if you really feel strong about your business acumen and you have some passion for technology, that is a great program to check out. And if you want to see the details of our all these majors and colleges I just mentioned, you can visit this website to see all the catalog for UC Berkeley is at guide.berkeley.edu. That is a guide.berkeley.edu. So we also want you to know that participating in research is one of the ways that students at Berkeley explore their interests and discover their passions. At URAP, which is the undergraduate research apprenticeship program, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Research Berkeley at Haas Scholars. You can get many scholarships and prizes that are available to support students who are engaging in research. So if you're interested in pre-existing research, that's fine. And if you have some ideas of your own and you want to, and you need some means and ways to research what you want to bring to fruition in your research, there are scholarships available to you. So there's lots of ways you can be involved in research. And I always like to say this one thing that some people might not know what the main difference, what makes a UC is a UC is that there are all research institutions. And if you would like more information, please visit urap@berkeley.edu. urap.berkeley.edu. So just a few places where students seek support includes the Center for Educational Equity and Excellence, which provides support for students from a variety of backgrounds. Such programs include the Transfer Center, the Educational Opportunity Program, the Undocumented Student Program, or special programs for system-impacted students. Academic resources centers like the Student Learning Center or the Academic Service Center in the residence halls, or even in the libraries, offer tutoring, technology support, and other resources to assist students through classes and research. Multicultural student development, academic, social and emotional, professional development, as well as community and cultural support. So here are some students who have studied abroad and we captured their experiences. This is one of my favorite slides because of the vibrant pictures. But we want you to know that UC offers 100 study abroad programs in about 40 countries around the world. This includes areas in Europe, Central and South America, Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, the Middle East, Australia, and Australia. Students can study abroad for a semester, a year, and some programs even longer. We do have 2 programs where you could apply to as a freshman. These are 2 more like dual degrees, but you start internationally. The first one is called Sciences Po. So if you're interested in studying in France and learning more about political science, that is a program you could apply directly to. You will spend your first 2 years in France studying political science. You do not have to be fluent in French. You do not have to know how to speak any type of French. They will work with you. And your last 2 years will be at Berkeley, where you will study any area of the humanities. So you will graduate with 2 degrees there. Also, Hong Kong University, the same type of program. First 2 years in Hong Kong, the last 2 years in Berkeley. So students make connections in a variety of ways. It really starts in the residence hall, starting with Golden Bear Orientation, which we also call GBO. So in the GBO, it offers a variety of activities through residential services and provides themed housing programs. Those are special residential communities where students can connect with people who have similar backgrounds or interests. Berkeley students gain as much outside of the classroom as they do inside of the classroom. We have over 1,200 clubs and organizations that the campus has to offer. Many Berkeley students join organizations based on their interests, passion, or identity. And whether your interest is in service, culture, religion, politics, academics, or you have a professional interest, there is a student organization for you on campus. And if for some reason you don't find one out of that 1,200, we absolutely encourage you to create your own. So all Berkeley students can take part of our ongoing athletic traditions, whether it's our talented athletes representing our many teams or our students who actively cheer and support our California Golden Bears by attending rallies, bonfires, or participating in the card sunset games. Finding a role in sports on campus is one of Berkeley's best traditions. Oh, just put something I just learned about, I think just 2 days ago. So, when you're at a big athletic event and you see the fans or the participants with the cards, we call those the card stunts, that was created at UC Berkeley back in the 1800s. All right, so now I want to talk about student leadership. The Associated Students of our school, we call it ASUC, is one of the only autonomous student organizations in the country. Student leaders are elected to tackle issues that are important to Berkeley students, also in collaboration with campus administrators. Some examples are finding 24-hour study spaces, gender equity issues, and tackling mental health and coming up with more programs that create mental health services for our students. We also have public service programs available on campus, including Build, where you can monitor youth in reading. We also have Cal in the Capitol, where you can intern in Washington, DC, or do service learning trips through alternative breaks. We are a proud top producer of Peace Corps and Teach for America volunteers. Berkeley students' engagement and activism dates back to the free speech movement from the 1960s, which sparked our students' continuing challenge of the status quo. Berkeley students are encouraged to take on issues important to them. So at Berkeley, students learn from their peers who come from different places and have different backgrounds. And having such diversity enhances the educational experience. 1/3 of our incoming classes will be transfer students. This means for every 2 freshman students, there will be 1 transfer student admitted. We value transfer students and the diversity of experience they bring to campus. 26% of our 26% of our incoming freshman class will be the first in their family to obtain a bachelor's degree. 5% come from rural areas. 76 come from public schools. This means our campus remains accessible to everyone, even in the face of increasing competition year after year. And so even though we are a global university, we recognize that happens because we have so much representation from other countries, 74 countries to be exact. And within those 74 different countries, we have folks speaking over 20 different languages. So for potential students and families like yourselves, we want you to understand the value of getting a Berkeley education. 65% of students graduate with no debt. Just gonna let that sit with you for 1 second. 65% of students, no debt. That's pretty amazing nowadays. 2/3 of students receive financial aid. We are ranked in the top 5 best value colleges by Forbes. And Berkeley is among the top universities in the country for upward mobility of students. 80% of students graduate with either a job offer or acceptance to grad school. We are also among the top producers of CEOs and for students who start their own businesses. So now we're gonna just go over some helpful things. If you decide to apply to Berkeley, here's some things we absolutely want you to know. So first of all, we have a holistic review. That means we take both academic and non-academic information on the application before making a recommendation for admission. Secondly, we value your authentic self and encourage you to tell us your full story. Each section of the application is important to us. We look at your grades, the rigor of your program, and in the context of your school in the area for your academic section. And for extracurricular sections, we want to see what you are passionate about. That's why we ask how many hours per week and weeks per year for each activity. We look for evidence of sustained involvement in leadership, which is going to look different for everyone. Another thing we'd like you to know is to please treat your PIQs, that's personal insight questions, treat your PIQs like an interview. Since we don't have a time or opportunities to conduct in-person interviews, this is a part of the application where you could have the most control because you can frame what you want us to know about you. But please do not be afraid to tell us your full story. And don't select questions and deliver responses based on what you think we want to hear. Choose questions that best tell us who you are as a person and as a scholar. Our office is available to answer questions about this process. So just so y'all know, I am the territory manager for San Francisco. So if you have any questions in the future, please you can reach out to me directly, or in general questions, of course, you can just reach out to the office. You can also catch us on social media, and for any technical questions about the application, we have a UC Application Processing Center. So we are
Yeah, Deanna, I have a question about the application. Is it the same as it is for all UC campuses? Because
yeah, that is a great question. Yes, so one application will be seen by whichever UC you choose. So there are 9 UCs. If you choose all 9, if you apply to all 9 will read the very same application, which it's a general rule we try to share with most people. But if your heart is set on UCLA, you do try to keep your UC application general to the UCs. But, if UCLA is your love, go for it. But typically, there are other schools that are like, well, they'd rather go to UCLA, so just be careful with that one. Does that help? Oops, it's not time for questions yet.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So while I'm on this section right here, this is a great time to take a few questions. I'm just about at the end, but any questions about the application process? All right, I have about 3 more minutes, so keep it going. Okay, so we're right about at the end. So these are some universal timelines. Just on August 1st, the UC application opens to everyone. That simply means you can create your UC account as soon as August 1st. So November is the filing period. That means between August and November, you're just working on your application, but you can't actually submit it until November 1st. So between November 1st and November 30th is when you could file. But a safe bet is to get your application in by Thanksgiving. And just want you to know also, just to minimize some stress and anxiety, all applications are viewed the same no matter when they arrive. So we don't know the difference between anyone who submitted their application on November 1st or on November 30th, right? So just take your time, feel very comfortable with the the information you're going to submit, because what happens after you hit that submit button, you cannot, there's no takebacks. You can't really add any more information to your application. The typical things you could change is like if you misspelled your name or you entered the wrong social security number. But as far as the content within the application, you will not be able to add any more information. So just take your time, feel good about what you have to put in there before you hit submit, and then that will be it. And now, oh, I'm sorry, I have a couple of things on my timeline. I don't know why that is there. Sorry about this, y'all. All right, so students will get information that their application has been received in December. Between December and February, you do want to keep a lookout via your UC Berkeley portal for any updated information. For UC Berkeley, late March is always the month for decision. So if you are looking for your decision for UC Berkeley, it's always going to be at the end of March. For transfer students, that is the end of April. I'm sorry, I got fingers are everywhere. So we do want to give you some time to make an informed decision. So you don't have to decide right away. I think you have roughly about 3 weeks before you commit. So you do want to do your due diligence and make sure you are choosing your best fit school. And if it's Berkeley, that's great. And we need you to say yes by May 1st. If you decide on May 2nd, it will absolutely be too late. And the same is true for our transfer students. Their day would be June 1st. Now I'm at the questions section. And if you want to be a part of UC Berkeley's listserv, just go ahead and search for admissions.berkeley.edu, the /sign up, and that will make you a part of our listserv. And if you have any financial aid questions, please visit our financial aid website.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Dion. And Dion will remain on as more questions may come up. We're going to pass the baton over to Micah at UC Berkeley Hillel. Micah.
Sure. Thanks, Deb. And thanks so much, Dion, for that presentation. I've worked in affiliation with UC Berkeley for some time now, and every time I hear a presentation like that, I learn something new. So thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Micah Lesh. I'm the Director of Jewish Student Life at Berkeley Hillel, as Deb mentioned. A little bit of background information before I share my screen with a short presentation on Hillel. I am 24 years old. I graduated from UC Davis, actually not UC Berkeley, from UC Davis in 2019. Made some Aggies a little angry by going on over to work for our sworn enemy, but that's okay. And I'm in my third year in this position, working on what we call our student life team. So it's my job, when and if you wonderful folks would come to UC Berkeley, to welcome you with open arms and to create a community for you that makes you feel safe and supported. So the next couple minutes, I'll just go through a short presentation on what Hillel is, what we do, and then most importantly, after that, I'll toss it over to my good friend Abby to talk about the student experience at Hillel. And just like John said, if there are questions that come up in the middle of the presentation, I have no problem with you interrupting. Go Bears is the first good message. So in this presentation, a couple things. Like I mentioned, you'll meet a current student who's that wonderful human over there, Abby, in just a few minutes. You'll meet a Hillel staff member, which is me. Learn a bit about Berkeley Hillel, and like I said, answer some questions. So just to ordinarily with a presentation like this, we'd have a couple more staff members on the call, but you're stuck with me. But important to preface that it's not just me running Hillel, that would be crazy. We're blessed to have a really expansive staff for a Hillel. We're considered one of the larger ones in the country. There are over 650 plus Hillels at college campuses across the US. We have a staff of 13 people. Among them include, as you can see here, an executive and associate director. Our executive director is named Rabbi Adam Naftalin-Kelman. He's going on his 12th year at the organization. We have an operations staff, someone who manages the operations of our facility. We have, like I said, what we call a student life team. So the people who are outward facing of the organization, whose job it is, like I said, to create community among students and put on all of our different and fabulous programs. For the most part, every Hillel has an employee from Israel who we call our Israel Fellow. So we have a great guy named Bar who will be starting in his second year. We are one of the few Hillels, I think there's only 3 Hillels in the country, including ours, that have a mental health professional on staff. So we have a therapist on staff whose job it is just to see students, hear about what they're going through. And that's a completely free service that we offer. So that's a new addition to our staff. We have a development professional, someone whose job it is to do the fundraising, the development in our organization. And then some exciting news, we're bringing on quite a few more people. We're bringing on a second rabbi rather, next year, as well as some two folks on our student life team to do a little more of that programming. And like it says here, our mission, as you might be able to find out from our website, I'll share that in a little bit, is to build a pluralistic community where every student, Jewish or non-Jewish, an important point there, feels that they can belong, grow, and create in our community. So I'll step back for a second and answer the question, what is Berkeley Hillel? Some of you might have some preconceived notions about what Jewish community looks like on campus. As John mentioned, there's a number of different religious and ethnic groups that exist on campus in different settings. We are ourselves an organization that's directly affiliated with UC Berkeley, but we're across the street from the campus, so we're about as close as you can get. Like it says, we're located just across from the law school. We're more than just a building. And by that, I mean, we do have this wonderful facility that was just recently renovated a couple of years ago. It's open to any and all student. We like to say that we never check the Jew card at the door, so to speak, that it's a community center that exists and is for any and all students to feel at home at. However, as you can see here, we've offered a variety of virtual programming as we went online for the last year during the pandemic. All of that will be transitioning to fully in-person programming, which we're quite excited about. We offer different kinds of programming, both religious, social justice oriented, culture oriented, relationship building. We offer travel opportunities. I'll get into that in a second. Some just examples here: Shabbat, high holidays, book clubs, cafe vrit, opportunities to speak Hebrew, volunteering, get out the vote, climate action. There's bagels, of course. So the nature of a Hillel, as you might be able to tell, is that it's not just a synagogue, it's not just a JCC, it's not just a community center, it's really all of those things wrapped up into one, and sort of our wide breadth of programs exemplifies that. So getting more into the weeds of what the programs offer, I won't go through what each of these things are because we'd be here all night. But we like to separate our programmatic offerings into 2 categories, which you can see here. One is engagement and the other is learning. So any student can come into our building and use our wonderful facility and eat all of our free food at our weekly barbecue and our Shabbat and just do their homework there for 4 years, not talk to anyone, and that's fine. That wouldn't be that fun though, would it? You want to sort of dive deeper and see what else there is in the community. So in the engagement category, what we call fellowships, which are small learning communities where people get together for a semester or for a year. And it's usually with a staff member such as myself. Under engagement, there we have the Schultz Engagement Fellowship, where we literally hire and pay students to do what it is that I do, which is to engage incoming students, make them feel welcome, create programs for them. Last year, we launched the Social Justice Fellowship, which is sort of a one-of-a-kind fellowship across all Hillels across the country, where we gathered on Zoom, we'll gather in person to hear from a local social justice leader in Berkeley and Oakland on a variety of social justice issues. And students actually get to be placed at different social justice community service organizations across the East Bay to do volunteering on behalf of Hillel. We have a student board who runs all of our leadership. We have various one-off leadership opportunities, such as things like coordinating our retreat, coordinating Welcome Week. So those are sort of the student-facing jobs. And then on the right side is the learning, where you can maybe imagine there's a reason we have 2 rabbis on staff. Is because it is their job for those who choose and for those who are interested to dive deeper into their Jewish identity and their learning by being a part of these fellowships to just do that Jewish learning. So you'll hear the term JLF tossed around a lot. That's an acronym for Jewish Learning Fellowship. We this last year, we offered 9 fellowships, including JLF 1.0 and 2.0. We created a curriculum called JLF Tackling Climate Change that I ran with one of my colleagues, Emily, where we talked about Jewish perspectives on climate change and brought a number of speakers in the climate movement. We have a fellowship called Crafting Consent, which is an all-female identifying fellowship where women can come together to talk about issues around consent and identity and how that intersects with Judaism. Shabbat Hosting Lab, Israel, conversations around Shabbat and Israel. We have a senior fellowship, which we love to call Booze and Schmooze, because it's for 21 plus folks that get together with their rabbi, maybe drink a beer and talk about what life is like after college, which is too fun. And then these ones in the bottom are usually one-off opportunities to get involved. IAC Mishalanu is for all of our wonderful Israeli students or folks who grew up speaking Hebrew. Every Wednesday, which is before our big barbecue, which we have a barbecue every week, we're relaunching that in the fall. You'll hear people yelling at each other in Hebrew because Cafe Ivrit meets the hour before barbecue. You feel like you're in like a market in Jerusalem. It's great. We have a Talmud club, we have book clubs, the list goes on and on in terms of opportunities to get involved. That was a lot. I can stop for a moment and ask if anyone has any questions. All right. You're welcome to take.
I'm sorry, this is Dion. I just would like to get your contact information before this is all.
Sure. That would be fabulous. Thanks, Dion. Yes. Let's connect. Maybe we'll go to Cafe Strata, a great coffee shop for those who are visiting Berkeley.
Apple cake, I miss it.
Oh my God, the apple. That's right. Oh, I do too. Great. Well, here's in terms of fellowships, this is just a little bit of a taste of what it's looked like in the past. These gatherings, like I mentioned, create community. People often say that it's the retreat or it's getting together on Welcome Week or it's these fellowships that really allow them to find their friends in the Jewish community. Abby is a superhuman who has done an amazing job of finding like the most friends I've ever seen in my life just through Shabbat. So she's incredible. So this on the corner, you can see this is on Zoom. This is what our fellowships have looked like this year. On the top left-hand corner, those are all Israeli people talking Hebrew. So you can see how loud it gets just based on the number of folks there. And then these are just different pictures from different fellowships. Student groups are another important arm of our programming of organization. And what they are essentially is everything that's not run explicitly by staff or student leaders. And by that, I mean, Dion mentioned earlier and talked so well about clubs and organizations on campus. A lot of these clubs you see here are registered student organizations or RSOs, and they also are affiliated or associated with us in some way. That can mean they receive funding from us. That can mean they just use our space. That can mean we just know of them and that we work with them in some capacity. So there's a number of them here that range from things like As Written, which is UC Berkeley's premier arts and culture magazine, to JFEM, which is Jewish feminist organization. You can see there's a number of Israel-oriented organizations, whether that's culturally speaking or Israel advocacy groups. There's Dainu, a Jewish call to climate action. We have our own little climate group. Directors and First Impressions, or DOFI, are the people who are hired to sit at our front desk to welcome you into the building. There's Jewish fraternities. There once was a Jewish sorority on campus, no longer. There's Challah for Hunger, as you can see, which is another great food service organization. Allows people where they gather in our building every Thursday to bake challah. Proceeds go to different organizations that combat food insecurity. The list goes on and on. And this may seem overwhelming, but when and if you do come to Hillel, it's very easy to see the spectrum of wonderful organizations we have, because our first big barbecue, which we call Jewsapalooza, because we have to have a pun like that, because we're a Jewish organization, you get to see all these organizations up close and personal. Last opportunity, I'll only take a few more minutes here, is traveling through Hillel. We offer a number of travel opportunities, which are so fun. What would a Jewish organization's presentation be without people on camels? We offer a birthright trip, like lots of Jewish organizations do. If you don't know what birthright is, it's a wonderful opportunity to travel to Israel for 10 days for free. And what we offer compared to other birthright trips is that you get to go with Berkeley students, which is a whole lot of fun. I staffed our birthright trip in December, just before COVID hit. Last time a lot of us traveled, and it was quite a fun time. We usually fill around a full bus, if not 2 buses full of Berkeley students every winter. We do not do summer birthright trips. We do ours in December. The I Engage Students Seminar through the Shalom Hartman Institute is another great trip. We bring 10 students to Jerusalem for 10 days for a high intensity, I should say high intensity learning opportunity with the Shalom Hartman Institute, which is an important think tank housed in Jerusalem. Winter Birthright is so fun. It was so fun. Thanks, Abby. Pardes, the Marla Bennett Fellow. This is another really wonderful opportunity to dive even deeper to Jewish learning. Pardes is a pluralistic yeshiva. It's a house of learning based in Jerusalem, where we send for free, totally free of cost for a semester, a single student to be what we call a Marla Bennett Fellow, to learn at Pardes, to participate in a program with other students across the country, different colleges. And finally, Perspectives, which is one of the more unique trips we offer, in that it's specifically geared towards non-Jewish students. We bring in 5 Jewish student leaders who we elect, who are involved in some way, to be on the trip. And then we bring a group of 25 non-Jewish folks, both to different parts of Israel and actually to different areas in the Palestinian territories, to learn deeply about the conflict, the many nuances and complexities of it, and to bring back those ideas back to campus to have nuanced conversations around the complex issue of the conflict. So those are some trips. There's a possibility we're also offering a 5th trip, which is an alternative spring break and racial justice trip to the American South. That is still in the works, but hopefully we'll be adding that to our arsenal of trips. Let me go along here. Just a couple pictures, not necessarily related to trips, but just to programs. You can see on the left-hand corner, we did not stop handing bagels out despite the complexities of the pandemic, because bagels are too important. So we had some student leaders handing out bagels once a week, which we will bring back. It's called Bagels on the Glade. Every Tuesday, you'll see a staff member as well as a bunch of students on a blanket eating bagels. There's more bagels in the second picture. You're probably seeing a theme here. And then on the bottom right corner, there's actually a picture from our retreat. So one other thing I didn't mention is every fall, and unfortunately we couldn't do it last fall, there is a new student retreat where first year's transfer students, really any student who didn't have a chance to come, goes with us up to the Marin Headlands, which is a beautiful area just about a half hour north of us. We don't camp. If camping's not your thing, don't worry. We're in cabins and a beautiful retreat center. We do lots of different team bonding activities. We hang out, get to know each other, some Jewish ritual. And like I said before, other than Shabbat, other opportunities like barbecue, things like one of our opportunities at Hillel, the retreat is the single most important event that we offer, where people cite when they say that they made their best friends in college through Hillel. So that was a lot. I realized it was a lot of dumping information on you. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. The last thing I ask of you as an action item is to follow us on all social medias. You'll see our links here. If you haven't already done so, our website is a repository of probably all this information plus a million other pieces of information, so much so that your brain could explode. But it's any question you might have that I can't answer, that's not answered here, highly encourage you to look on the website, because you can poke around enough usually to find it. And then the specific action item there is, if you're first time scrolling on our website, I encourage you to scroll all the way to the bottom. On the bottom right corner, you enter in your email, click submit, and then you're automatically on our newsletter, which we send out once a week when things get going. And then all our announcements about programming you'll either be there or will be in our social media. So I will stop there and just say the pun at the end, which is that we can barely wait to see you, which I still think is hilarious. And I'll stop there. Have any questions? And if not, I'll pass it over to Abby.
Great job.
Thank you. All right.
Should I go? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Berry. I'm an incoming senior at Cal. Go Bears. Got my shirt on. I'm studying society and environment in Berkeley's College of Natural Resources. Gave that a little shout out in Dion's presentation. And I'm minoring in public policy. I'm essentially on like an environmental law track. And for any of my BBYO homies out there, I was really, really involved in BBYO before college. I was a Perlman Madrigal, if that means anything to you. Some things I'm involved with on campus. I'm a first generation college student, so I'm in EOP, the Educational Opportunity Program. I live in Bowles Hall Residential College and I'm involved with leadership there. Bowles Hall is a living learning community. It's really, really awesome. I would highly recommend looking into it. You can always reach out to me. I can tell you all about it. I absolutely adore it. I served on an ASUC presidential campaign this last semester. I also worked with Path to Care, advocating for survivors of assault and creating resources for their orgs. And then most importantly with Hillel, I'm very involved with Hillel. I'm actually a transfer student and I transferred from another UC. And this semester was my first semester on Berkeley campus. And I moved into Bowles, and obviously we were in the middle of pandemic. So something that I started in order to like really get going with the Jewish community, because I knew that was something I wanted to be a part of, I started a group chat called Shabbat Squatty, super clever, I know, in the Bowles Slack. And I essentially just, as soon as I met anyone, non-Jew, Jew, whatever, I was like, join this group chat. And then I would share all of the links to sign up for Shabbat. And then I would have everyone walk over to Hillel with me, grab Shabbat, and then we'd go back to Bowles and we would just have this like big dinner with everyone. It was really funny teaching our non-Jewish friends how to sing Hamotzi. It was really great. And it was just like one of my highlights every single week this semester because I got to share our culture through community. And of course, the best part of Judaism, food, which was just so, so fun. I guess I should talk about why I chose Cal. I definitely had a very unique experience. I actually got into Berkeley initially out of high school, but I was a little nervous. I'm from the Bay Area and Berkeley tends to have this like really intense, like competitive, I guess, stereotype around it. So I had a bit of imposter syndrome and I didn't go and I went to another UC. And at this UC, I just never really found my place. I didn't really feel like I truly belonged. I wanted a stronger and bigger Jewish community. I wanted challenging and engaging academics. And I wanted a student body of students who just like really wanted to make an impact, and that's Cal. I did everything like I could possibly do to transfer, and I'm just so happy to be at Berkeley. It fulfilled all those things that I really wanted and needed in college. Yeah, and I'd say one of my favorite things about Cal is just one, the relationship that the greater Berkeley community has with UC Berkeley, and then vice versa. It's just so awesome being able to just go into like downtown Berkeley and you just know like when you're at a bookstore or anything like coffee shop, they always know like when finals are happening or like what's going on, and they'll talk to you about it and they'll be like, oh, you need an extra shot of espresso, I got you. Like it's just so fun to be so integrated into the community. And another thing, being in the College of Natural Resources, like just the commitment to the environment and also just like sustainability and also social responsibility is really huge on campus, which I really appreciate. I do think that students really do like learn a lot of information and then apply it to their lives and live by that, and which is just so incredible to see. Yeah, and then another one of my favorite things is how supportive and respectful the professors are. I think the professors really, really respect Berkeley students and like how much we want to be there and how much we want to learn, and they like really get us. And I didn't feel that at my previous university, and that's just something that I like really try not to take for granted, because it's really incredible to, you know, like have a super engaging conversation with your professors, even though like I've only ever had classes online through Cal, but I know I'm just like so excited to go in person because I've already just had such a great experience. Oh, okay. I wanted to bring up this. I know, so I was supposed to answer what I might dislike from Berkeley, but this is kind of a funny answer. I think what's really interesting is that the previous university I went to was half the size of Cal. And I think a lot of people go into Berkeley and they're like, it's a huge college or huge university. But what's so awesome about just having the variety of colleges and all these different orgs and all these different communities to be a part of is I actually do feel like I found my place. And like when I walk on campus, I just have such like a positive sense of self. And so regardless of the fact that there are like so many students there, I do feel like I belong. And I guess the big surprise would be that it really doesn't live up to the competitive or toxic stereotypes that people talk about. It's so supportive. It is such a great community. I feel like people really like to learn and talk about what they're learning about. And, you know, we're not just a bunch of nerds. We like to have fun. We do our thing. But I just think that's like something that I really love. Like for me, my learning experience, I was like, I don't want it to just be in the classroom. It has to go outside of it. It has to go beyond that. And it totally does. I love it. My roommate is an architecture major, like so different than what I'm studying. One of my best friends is computer science, and like another friend's econ. Like we're all over, like across the board, but we talk about it and we find like the intersections, and it's just really cool to have friends in different colleges. So yeah, I'm obviously very exuberant and excited about Berkeley, and I absolutely love the Jewish community. And I hope you go to Cal, go Bears.
Amazing. Abby and Micah and
The
Dion.
Bears.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We still have time. You guys were completely so efficient with your presentations that what's really helpful is that we have a good 10 minutes for Q&A. So there are a bunch of attendees here. If any of you have questions, you can unmute. You can type questions in the chat or send them through the Q&A feature. And I did just see a question about learning differences. And for students with learning differences, can you share a little bit about how UC Berkeley can help accommodate?
Absolutely. So, and when you apply and you speak about your learning differences, we actually will kind of flag that application just so that if you are admitted to Berkeley, you'll start automatically getting resources from our Disabled Students Center. And that just simply means they know you're on campus, and any support that you need to help you navigate through your time at Berkeley, that's what they're there for. And just another history drop, UC Berkeley is the first college campus with a Disabled Student Service Center. So you don't have to talk about it in your application, but if you do, we will help you get that notice. And when you're on campus, you can just go straight into the office like, hey, what type of resources do you have that perhaps that will suit me? So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
Thank you. And Abby, I saw you put in the chat. Would you share a little bit about your connection to DSP?
Yeah, so I'm a part of the Disabled Students Program, and I find it to be really, really helpful. As someone who struggles with anxiety and OCD, I find that like some classroom environments are a little more difficult to focus in, or like if I feel like I can't get something done in time, I can ask for an extension. And I know at Berkeley, like we're all really high achievers. So oftentimes it's like a little hard to admit that, oh, I might need help, or I might be on like a different path than other students. And that was something that I really had a hard time coming to terms with. But then once I joined DSP, I was just so grateful because you basically get assigned to an advisor. They sit down with you, they talk to you, like what can we do to make this like a really positive academic experience where you don't feel an overwhelming amount of stress. And I just sat there and I was like, most of my classes, I have a lot of papers. I don't have tests, so I don't necessarily need extended testing time. But sometimes like it would be nice to get an extension here or there. And I was able to do that. And so they really do work with you individually on like what you need, which is so great. And I'm really grateful for the DSP program just because it really has like helped me so much this past semester.
Terrific. Thank you. Another question that I hear often is about how does it feel to be Jewish on campus, and what experiences do you have? Have you felt anti-Semitism? What can you, either of you, Mike or Abby, speak to that?
Yeah, Abby, do you want to start to take that, and I can add on if you'd like?
Yeah, sure. So of course, there's always like the positives. I play Jewish geography with just about anyone I meet. One time I was like just hanging out with my roommate, and she was at work. She works on campus, and her coworker, we were just kind of chatting, and he was like, "Oh, my name's Victor," and I was like, "Are you Russian? Are you Jewish?" And it just like in a second I knew, which was really funny. My roommate was like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, we just know. But it was great. And then actually that week he had work on Friday again, and I picked up Shabbat and we had Shabbat together because thought I'd share that with everyone. So it was really fun. I would say the Jewish community is like super expansive. The way that I got involved with Path to Care and with ASDC election was literally because of like mutual Jewish friends. And also how I got involved with Bulls. I would say about just about anything is just kind of like having that like background in that community has just been super helpful. On the flip side of that, Berkeley is known as like a very liberal, very like outgoing campus. Also has a lot of anti-Israel sentiment on campus, which at times definitely does start to teeter into anti-Semitism. Something that I'm really grateful for is that Hillel is a space where we don't necessarily always have to have the Israel conversation. You can just go to the space and be Jewish and like be Jewish around your friends that are or not, and it's a safe space. Israel isn't like a focal point, and it isn't like a specific thing that we have to talk about all the time. There are separate orgs that you can be like a huge advocate on campus for. But that's something I really appreciate about Hillel, because I definitely think as a Jewish student, sometimes it can feel like the weight of that conversation is on your shoulders, right? Like when we have BDS that's present, and I'm, like every single UC has a BDS presence, every single UC has that presence. And it can be really intense, but I think one of the best things about Cal's Jewish community is that there's always going to be students that like are willing to have the conversation with you and support you. And even then, like I have a lot of my friends within Bulls are not Jewish, and like I will talk to them about Israel all the time and like the complexities of it. You're going to meet people on both sides of the spectrum that don't want to talk to the other. And I try to find myself more in the middle ground.
Thank you. Micah, yeah.
Oh, sure. So yeah, that's great, Abby. And I am, there's not a whole lot I would add to that other than, well, first I should say that that perspective is exactly what you should take home with you, because I think that's the most important thing to consider. Like Abby said, that there's these spaces where you can have these conversations and spaces where you don't. Two things I'd add particularly about when it comes to anti-Semitism on campus, and is that, and it's, I say it often and I hate saying it because it's the nature of our world, but there's anti-Semitism in Berkeley like there's anti-Semitism everywhere. And by the reason I bring that up is because, like we've said in different parts of the presentations, there seems to be these stereotypes or these notions around Berkeley. I grew up in a synagogue community where people used to say the People's Republic of Berkeley, right? There's this notion that because of its history in the free speech movement, its history and being a politically active community, that all of a sudden you come with potentially different views and you're going to be stigmatized and villainized. And that's just not true. And I say that having grown up nearby. So I think that, sort of throwing out the predisposition is important. And also knowing that because there's anti-Semitism here, just like there's anti-Semitism everywhere, one thing that I think we do really well and we can continue to do better is to be proactive when it comes to instances of anti-Semitism. So not only, like I mentioned, I went to UC Davis, wasn't that long ago, even though I sometimes feel old compared to students. The nature of the way in which our Jewish community operated was not that productive when it came to these instances because we were very reactionary. By that I mean when something came up, when someone said something publicly that was anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic, we as a community reacted to it, said our piece, and then sort of came back into our bubble. There's that element at Berkeley, certainly, in that we are a community that exists out of the building sometimes, but we really try to be proactive when it comes to, as opposed to reactive when it comes to these instances. So, for example, Rabbi Adam, who's our executive director, helped to start the Chancellor's Colloquium on Jewish student life, which exists as a body the Chancellor at Berkeley sits on, as well as other Jewish student leaders, as well as Jewish faculty and administration who work on these issues to be proactive around preventing them. In 2019, Rabbi Adam, as well as a guy named Stephen David F. Solomon, a professor at the law school, and another professor in the history department, started an education initiative around anti-Semitism. So what it means to talk about the complexities of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel rhetoric, how they're separate, how they bleed together. Like Abby mentioned, they do a lot of educational work around the community, and they're known for that. So we have a sort of a strong Jewish community that exists within our bubble, so to speak, and we, like I said, we try to do a lot of that other proactive work. Last thing I'll say in terms of needs to be Jewish on campus, if Hillel is not your space, for whatever reason, should have mentioned earlier too that there's a Chabad house. If you don't know what Chabad is, it's a house of, a family, quite a large family who exists to do what we do, right? Is to put various kinds of Jewish programs on for students. and they're just as a wonderful community. We're very close with them. There's also a very strong Jewish studies department that offers a minor in Jewish studies, quite a lot of Jewish faculty there. There's Jewish faculty at the law school. And what I think makes it unique in close proximity to us is, I believe they changed their name recently. It's called the Helen Diller, it's a long name, you might have to help me here, Center for Jewish Law and Israel Studies, I believe is the long title. Housed at the law school. So they're another community that we work very closely with that does a lot of anti-Semitism education. So the list goes on, and there's a lot of those resources to use. Yeah, so that's to answer the question.
Awesome. Super, super helpful for all of us. Again, if there's any other questions, feel free. You can also, you can be in touch with us. If I think any of our panelists want to put their contact info into the chat. So if you have specific questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to them. That is a wonderful way to do it. I'd say one last thing, one question that's percolating in my mind is really for Dion. If I was incoming sophomore, rising sophomore, rising junior, thinking about, not ready to apply yet, but I'm, thinking about where I want to go to school, what is something I should be thinking about if Berkeley's where I want to go? What will help me get into Berkeley or be looked at by Berkeley?
Great question. I am a huge fan of finding your best fit school. And that first is going to start with a little homework and investigation, right? So one, you might just want to start with the population of the school. Are you ready to jump into a huge city-like campus, or do you want to stay in a more smaller community? We want to consider that. The weather. And really, sometimes students are so enamored by the name Berkeley, and they apply just because of the name, and they didn't really do any research. And then sometimes students find Berkeley was not their best fit because they didn't do the homework. Sometimes they even learn that Berkeley doesn't have the major that they want, right? So there is, well, a long time ago, I think they may still have it, but one thing that can help you with your best fit, the SAI College Board, you can select everything you're looking for in a college, and they'll churn that out, and they'll find the top 10 choices for you. But for Berkeley in particular, I do recommend, especially if you're just across the bridge over in San Francisco, when things do open up, come check out the campus. You're just about no more than the 30 to 40 minute BART ride away from the campus. You can BART straight to campus. I'm sorry. BART will stop about a half a mile from campus. It's a great field trip. But I like to say checking out a college campus is like checking out clothes, right? You might see the clothes on that mannequin. You're like, oh, that outfit is amazing. And then you go try it on and it's just doesn't quite, oh, cinches, oh, this doesn't fit like I thought. But stepping on college campus really helps you get that feel, that energy, that spark. And we have campus tours. I highly recommend campus tours. They are conducted by real-time students, and you can ask them about their student experience. Right now they're having virtual tours. If you go to visit.berkeley.edu, you can set up a virtual tour, or you could just find out when they will start the in-person tours as well. And really, you can do this before you even start college. If you can have access to the course catalog, you can know everything that's expected of any particular major you might be interested in. You don't have to guess. You have to take so many humanities classes, so many STEM classes, so many arts classes, right? So again, you just don't want to be shocked about what's going on the campus. And then the last thing I'll end with, find your kindred folks, your spirit. It doesn't always have to be the way you guys look or the way you guys connect to religion. It could be so many things where you find connection. Y'all might both love anime. You might love to dance. You might love sport. There's so many ways to find connection. So be open to all the different ways of finding the connection. But that first start, I would say, do a thorough investigation of everything we have to offer. And then that's going to give you a much better and informed idea of why you would like to attend Berkeley.
Super. Dion, Abby, Micah, thank you all so much for your time and your energy. We're super grateful that during the summer, you are here with us and helping us get a glimpse into UC Berkeley. Thank you all our attendees for joining us. Thank you for getting on the bus. This video, as we said earlier, will be uploaded to our virtual college road trip website where you can review it at any time. You can share it with friends. You can also watch other school presentations there as well, and with student bus driver videos, which you don't want to miss. This is our last bus tour for this season. We'll be doing it again next year. And as I said, these recordings will be living on the website. So we're going to officially stop recording. And